All right, welcome to CodeWithKamira. We are going to look at state management using Riverpod. And let's jump straight to the code. Let's add the packages. That's Flutter, pub add, Flutter, Riverpod. Okay, it should be added. Let's check. Flutter Riverpod. Yes, it's added. Now let's tell the application that we are using Riverpod. In the main method, let's wrap my app with ProviderScope. We call this ProviderScope. Okay. That's it. Now let's start creating our providers. Providers will be giving us what we require. For example, the repository will be given to us by that given repository provider. The data source, like this remote data source, will be given to us by the remote data source provider. So in the logic, let's start with the remote data source. Create a file, call it remote data source provider. Okay. Then we create the provider. It's going to be a final remote data source provider, subprovider. Okay. With a reference ref. And here we return remote data source. So that is it. Now, we need a provider that will give us our product repository. So we create product repository provider. Call it product repository provider. Final product repository provider equals provider ref. This one is intended to return product repository. The intention here is to return product repository, so we return the implementation. And we can specify the type of this provider, product repository. So we need remote data source. And therefore, what we do, we call a provider that gives us this data source. So final data source is equals to ref dot watch. So that means we are observing this provider for any changes. And so the provider that gives us this data source is the remote data source provider. Okay. So that means we've gotten our data source and we can pass it here as data source. Then we can also create the use case providers, and we can begin with the products use case. So we have products use case provider, and we can say final products use case provider is equal to provider ref and this provider is intended to return to us products use case. Now, the products use case requires a repository, and I'm sure this is the product repository. So we have to say final repo is equals to ref.watch product repository provider. This should be giving us the repository we need. So we pass it here. Okay, let's create also the details, the product details use case provider. Product details use case provider. So final product details. This is long. We can rename this info. Refactor product info use case provider product info use case provider is equals to provider, put a ref, then here, what's the intention here is to return a product details use case, right? But this use case requires a repository, so final the repo equals to ref.watch. So this is product repository provider. So this gives us this and we pass it here. Okay, we are going to create providers that will be giving us the real data now. Let's say okay, I can call it products. I call it products provider. So this one gives us the products. And now we need first to check which type of products it is. Which type? It is a future of list of products. So future of list of products, so it returns a future. So that means final products provider is equal to provider, okay? And now this provider is meant to give us the products, okay? Now, which type of provider this is a future provider actually, not just a provider. So it's a future provider, okay? Now this being a future provider, the type should be put here. It is a list of product, okay? So future provider, a list of product. Now we expect it to return the products from our use case. And how do we access that use case? Specify no products use case is equals to ref.watch products use case provider. All right, so we get our product use case dot call. We expect this to give us data of type future of this. So this is the provider. And we now create product info provider. Product info provider. So this one is intended to give us the details of the product. So final product info provider is equals to which type of provider? Let's check in the previous implementation. Here, this function is future of type product. So this product info provider is a future provider. Future provider. And being a future provider, let's have this ref here. Okay, we need to get a use case for the product details. Final use case equals to ref.watch product info use case provider. And then we need to return use case dot call. But it needs an ID. Okay, so that means we change this, we say this, because this is a future provider of type product. Okay, but then we need the ID to be passed by the caller of this. So what do? We say we specify now the family dot family, and the family is going to have the product as the return, but also the string as the expected param. And so in ref, after ref, we say string, we call it prod ID. So we pass here product ID. Okay, what are they saying? The argument of type string cannot be assigned to parameter int. Fine. So we expect not a string, but int. Okay. All right. So we have all that we need. Let's delete these methods. Let's start with the products. Display products. We delete it. Delete anyway. Okay. And work. Okay. So here we need the future. That future is going to be provided to us by the product provider. Let's say products async. Async is equals to use Riverpod, you don't need to have this stateless widget, but instead should be a consumer widget. So we change this to consumer widget. And also here we need the ref, so it's a WidgetRef. we pass the ref. That is it. So now we want to access and read the provider, and so the product's async value is going to be the ref dot watch. We want to be observing it, products provider. Okay. Now we need to see this one is an async value. Let me check by doing string. I see the error. What did I say? The argument of type future provider list of this cannot be assigned to this list iterable string. Yeah. So we already know what we have. So this future, we can do something like, let me try to see here. Products, if I use a feature builder, products async. What does it say as the error? Argument of type async value. So this one is async value. Object of type cannot be assigned to the param type future object. So we can use async value, or we can say future here. We can say future. It fixes it. Let's run and see. Yes. So it has given us the data. Now let's look into this product info. Let's delete this. So here in the product details, we need also this one. So while we have stateless, we can have consumer widget, but where we have stateful, if we at all we need to do some handle some init state and so on, then it is consumer stateful widget, not stateful widget just. But for this case, we treat it like stateless, so it's the consumer widget. Consumer widget. And as before, we need a WidgetRef, ref, and our future, product future is going to be, okay, our product future is going to be ref dot watch product info provider. But it complains because it expects some value. Okay, it expects the int. It expects the int. So we open here as a constructor and we pass the ID, prod ID. Okay, this should handle it, but you see async value. This is a future build that needs a future. Now, I want us to do something. For this case, let's use the future. So I say here, dot future, okay, and everything works. Let me also fix this snapshot is not spelled like that. Okay, let's run. Okay, so we have our data coming. So now let's click the detail. Okay, we go back. So we click again the detail of that particular product and see what happens. You see, no loading. However, if we click the detail of another product that we've not clicked before, like this, the first one, it loads to get, that is the first time it fetches. Then if we call it, click it again, it doesn't call the backend. So you realize that this manages state and makes the application work seamlessly. So this is a ring. Is it a ring that I clicked? I forgot, but let me see. Yes. So the next time you click, the state is being managed. Okay, let's go in the home here. Okay, let's not use future here. Okay, so the value here is an async value, not a future. It only becomes a future when I call dot future here. So that means it cannot be used here. This we expect a future. Now, how do we go about this? We can say, okay, we can say products async dot when. Okay, then we handle the various cases. So when there is that data, okay, we begin with the error. When there is error, so I copy, okay, there is error. And so this is error. Should I have expected stack? And then we return a text that we give the error. Okay. Then let's center this. Let's try to center it. Center. And also we have the loading. When it is loading, we do the same as we did here. Copy this. For loading, we can return. We do this. We return this. Okay. Now, for when there is data, we need to know which data it is. So that data is the products. So what do? We do this and it expects to return the widget. So we return what this is returning. We do this, copy. Okay, this. And we return this. But I might have done a mistake. Well, return this. Okay. Okay, so what is the error? I need to remove this builder here. We've used it up. Okay. So this modification should work as before, where we used the future builder. Okay, it has fetched the products, as you can see. So now you see, you can either use the sync value given, like in this case, or you set .future to get the future and use the future builder. It depends on how creative you want to be. And still in provider, we have the read. You see we've been watching, but there is read, ref.read on that provider if at all you want to modify something. We shall give an example in our next tutorial. Do not forget to subscribe to Code with Kamira, and also submit your comments, submit your questions that needs to be addressed, and we shall address them together. Share with your friends. Let's make this YouTube channel so much interactive. Thank you.